Hi, everybody. I'm Willem, and welcome to a special solo episode of Hear Me Out Pitch. Everybody, it has been a minute, and I just want to first apologize to everyone returning for us being for taking so long to recording again. It has been quite a second quarter of the year. Now with June nearing its end, it's kind of crazy that we have hardly recorded anything. This is probably the most we've done without recording an official episode, and it's sad, and I apologize to everybody. For those of you coming in for the first time, hi, my name is Willem, and usually my friend Tim is here with me. We started this podcast 3 years ago, and we talk about stories on this podcast. We originally started with coming up with pitches for movies that kind of let us down. Basically, a few Marvel movies, other movies that people suggested, movies that we would come up with, and some just awful movies. Awful ones. It slowly turned into us coming up with our own pitches for characters that we love, coming up with sequels for movies that we would love to see, and even coming up with original story ideas that we came up with. We came up with original characters, everything, and hopefully those stories will become something in the near future. So, hello everyone, welcome, and today the episode is something near and dear to me. Today marks the 30th anniversary of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I first need to admit to everyone that this is not the first or second or third time I have attempted to record this today. So, getting it down, made sure the audio is good, and I'm just trying to be better with this sort of thing. And I ramble, and I'm doing it now, and I realize that. So, we're going to go right into this of why The Hunchback of Notre Dame, a movie that came out 30 years ago. I was turning 1 year old. I said in the first time I did this that I was like turning 2. I was not turning 2. I was turning a year old. This movie is in my earliest memories on this planet. Like, I can remember having this movie and watching it before my sister, who's 2.5 years younger than me, was born. So this movie is special to me. Not my top Disney movie, but it is really high up there. Probably in the top 5. Heck, even top 3 Disney movies. Yeah, it's a special place in my heart. And we'll go into it, and you guys will probably see me tear up as I talk about a few scenes. And I guess I'm going to try to make things smoother with my notes that I made before. And yeah, let's just dive into this movie. And first off, the soundtrack of this movie is probably one of Disney's best. Hunchback of Notre Dame had something special. They tackled a story that I honestly can imagine was pretty controversial then and would be really controversial now. A Catholic cathedral with many Catholic teachings. It's really funny because I did not grow up Catholic. I did not really grow up I grew up in we don't need to talk about theology, but for the most part, I was very confused of why Quasimodo grew up believing one thing and I didn't. So that was a lot to unpack as a kid. And I will say, and I probably will say it many times in this video, that this movie is probably the reason why a little small boy was terrified of hell. I blame Count Frollo for that. A lot to unpack there. Anyway, the beginning of this movie is by far one of the best introductions to a movie ever. The beautiful narration of Clopel, the amazing soundtrack, the singing, but the tense atmosphere we get of sensing he thinks righteous anger of Judge Claude Frollo, to think that he's better than those who he calls gypsies, and how he thinks that he is just able to do away with it and do whatever he wants. How he kills Quasimodo's mother and is called out by the archdeacon. See there the innocent blood you have spilt on the steps of Notre Dame. You can lie to yourself and your minions. You can claim that you haven't a qualm, but you can never run from nor hide what you've done from the eyes. The Eyes of Notre Dame, to me, is one of the most chilling scenes ever. I used to have nightmares of that scene, and especially Judge Claude Frollo looking around, and you hear Clopel say, "And for one time in his life of power and control, Frollo felt a twinge of fear for his immortal soul. And seeing Mother Mary and the Christ child staring down at all the statues, staring down at him. Ooh, goosebumps. To this day, I still get goosebumps. And for Clopel to begin the story with this amazing tale, and then to ask us, the audience, the question, who is the monster and who is the man? And that will stick with us throughout this entire movie, just keeping that thought. Who is the monster and who is the man? Just one of the best setups to any movie. And then we immediately are introduced to grown-up Quasimodo, he who has been sheltered in this cathedral and just wants to be free. And with that, I transition to one of my favorite songs, or character songs. Quasimodo's Out There is something special, especially due to the fact that it begins with him getting beat down by his mentor and guardian, Frollo. After he has been encouraged by his gargoyles to go to the Feast of Fools, to get out into the world and kind of disobey Frollo, we see him get barraged and broken down by Frollo. And Frollo says the terrible lines, "You are deformed and you are ugly, and these are crimes for which the world shows little pity. You do not comprehend." And we'll keep those words in mind for later in the movie. After Frollo leaves and says to Quasimodo, "Out there is dangerous. In here is your sanctuary. Stay here." Quasimodo then thinks to himself, he's right. He's right, safe behind these pillars and these parapets of stone. He's gazing at the people down below him. All he wants is to not be above them, but among them. Just to do normal things and live a life. And sometimes that's all we ask in this life, is to not be sheltered, but to go out, make mistakes, and learn from them. And that's one of the best parts of that song. And the final line of Quasimodo saying, I can't think of the words, oh my goodness. "Won't despair, old and bent, I won't care. I will have spent one day out there." And I will say, everybody, I'm sorry that you have to hear me just say the lines and there's no music, because I am not getting copyrighted for this. So anyway, "I won't care. I will have spent one day out there." And we get straight introduction to Esmeralda and Phoebus. And Esmeralda is so wonderful, one of the best. We'll talk about her more, but her introduction along with Phoebus and these type of characters who are standing up to Frollo already, or at least the authority of, mistreating people. It's a characteristic of, again, monster and man. Are you going to be a man and help your fellow man, or are you going to be a monster and be better than them? Just that monster versus man deal. What are you going to be? I love that kind of trope that we have throughout it, especially after Frollo is introduced to Captain Phoebus and is explaining that in essence, he sees the gypsies as simply ants. He has the scene of the ants out on the balcony, and he takes a brick off the balcony, and you see this little colony of ants, and Phoebus asks, "So what exactly do you want me to do?" And he crushes all the ants. And to a small child, it really got the lesson across that Count Frollo is not a good man. And even now as an adult, you think to yourself, goodness, it's terrifying. And with that, we segue to the Feast of Fools. Again, I love how in Hunchback of Notre Dame, it goes from lighthearted, serious. This movie is a roller coaster. We have that so much of just dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. And it just goes throughout this whole movie. You'll have this lighthearted concept, or you'll have like something dark going on, but the characters are talking in these bright overs. Frollo does that a lot. He will be just this high and mighty pious man, and in the background you hear a man getting whipped and tortured, and you're like, oh my gosh.
My last captain of the guard was a bit of a disappointment to me.
Love that about this movie. And speaking of a highlight, we have the Feast of Fools. We see it is one of the most colorful moments. There's so much color in that scene where Esmeralda and Quasimodo are introduced to each other, and the heartbreaking scene of her thinking that he's wearing a mask, and that will play into him becoming the Feast of Fools. But, I mean, not the Feast of Fools, sorry, the King of Fools, which is truly one of the worst scenes to me. And I warn everybody, even after I've already tried to record this multiple times, thinking about this scene, having Quasimodo pulled up onto the platform, Copel tells everybody, here is our king, the King of Fools, and everyone's cheering, they're shouting. He has a crown on, he has the robe on, and he's got the little scepter in hand, and he's cheering. The confetti's flying, and for like 5 seconds. 5 seconds. It's beautiful. He's cheering. The confetti's everywhere. And just like that, it's gone. A guard, an ugly man of a guard, begins the hostile remarks of the crowd and how they turned on him, how they went from 1 second being, yeah, it's Quasimodo, the bell ringer, but he's going to be the king. It's going to be so much fun. But how they turned on him and how they laughed, and it was terrible. And the worst part of Quasimodo reaching out to Frollo, saying, Master, please help me. And in that terrible moment, there's a moment where they're looking at each other, and for me personally, it's almost as if Frollo is saying, I told you. What did I say? You are deformed and you are ugly, and these are crimes that the world will show little pity. Out there, they'll revile you as a monster. Out there, they'll hate and scorn and jeer. And they did exactly that. Frollo was right. And that's the terrible, honest part about going out sometimes, is that the world is ugly. The world can be a dark and cruel place. And then a lonely figure comes up, and it's Esmeralda. Apologizes to that poor boy, and as this authority figure of Frollo screams at her to get down, she says a very simple line. To me, it's been very powerful my whole life, and it is, you treat this boy the same way you treat my people. And she demands for justice. And I know it might sound silly to all of you, but in many instances, conflict of interest for people, especially, these past decade, we've had COVID, we've had many things that have come up. And one thing that might be silly to you is that I've always asked myself which side Esmeralda would stand on. And I think that kind of helps me place my feet where I want to stand. So, after an awesome and crazy escape, Esmeralda finds herself in Notre Dame. And after a terrifying interaction with Frollo and being told that she will not do well within these walls and escape looks impossible, she finds herself, in a way, praying and sings the beautiful song, God Help the Outcasts. And I won't go too much into it. It's truly one of my favorite songs, and truly a lesson that we all can take, whether you believe in something greater or not. I think that the idea of everyone is unique and everyone is a child of God. Everyone, just to help your fellow man, how it should be. And I'll just simply touch on this song by quoting the last line. I ask for nothing, I can get by, but I know so many less lucky than I. Please help my people, the torn and downtrod. I thought we all were children of God. Simple line, help your fellow man. Something that the the Court of Justice could easily have done, and they didn't. Again, monster versus man. A lot of things to think about. And after this song, we find that Quasimodo and Esmeralda have a wonderful friendship blooming. And it is sad that Quasimodo definitely falls in love with her and thinks that they could be something more. And it is sad that later in the movie that she will fall for Phoebus. But sometimes it is okay to accept that you are just going to be someone's Quasimodo. And I'll just leave that there. But speaking from experience, sometimes that is okay to be supportive and be there. Now, Hellfire. I understand that Heaven's Light comes right before Hellfire. That is the song that Quasimodo sings to talk about how grateful he is to Esmeralda, and maybe, just maybe, she can love him just like he loves her. And that's why, to me, I don't really emphasize on Heaven's Light. I think it's a beautiful song. I feel like it is lovely and wonderful, and I'm so happy for Quasimodo, but it kind of stinks when you know that Esmeralda doesn't feel that way. So that's why I don't talk about it so much. I do love it. I love it dearly, but there's not much to talk about, except it's just nice to have someone feel love. And truly, kind of quoting Les Mis, to love another person is to see the face of God. So to truly feel love, whether if it's, love, like whether it's a casual love, a familiar love, or an intimate love, that can help someone feel Heaven's Light. Beautiful idea of it. Now, Hellfire, this song, to me, is Disney's best villain song. And you guys can argue with me all you want, but I do not think that there is a villain song that quite catches the descent into madness, the descent into how much this man craves for Esmeralda. I really don't think so. There are a lot of catchy Disney songs, Disney villain songs. There's a lot of great ones, but I don't think any of them show how evil someone is quite like Hellfire, especially how just terrifying it is. It is scary. And I think one of the worst parts is that Frollo is saying that it is not his fault. Nothing is his fault. Nothing is his fault that he feels these ways towards Esmeralda. These impure thoughts that he is thinking, they're not his fault. He blames everyone else except himself. And he even begs for a greater power to take these thoughts away. And the ironic part is that a guard does come and says, "Minister Frollo, the gypsy has escaped. She's nowhere in the cathedral. She's gone." And I don't remember where I read this. I don't remember how long ago it was. But someone said that because that guard was in the silhouette, that guard could almost be an allegory to God, telling Frollo, the gypsy is gone. You can be free of this. But immediately after this, he says that she will be mine or she will burn. Even though she's gone and she is out of the way, he can be free of this and let it go. He chooses to covet even more. And soon after, we find him staring at his guard, and they say, "What are your orders?" "Find the gypsy girl," and leads to Paris in flames. Phoebus takes a stand when a family is threatened to burn. Esmeralda saves him, but still the point of just how far this man's obsession went. Threatening the citizens, and even, funny enough, asking them to betray Esmeralda for 20 pieces of silver. Which, if any of you have read the Bible, it's a pretty funny little Easter egg there. I'm not going to talk about A Guy Like You. It's just a cute little simple song. It's funny. It's silly. It was fun for kids. I will say that I still love it. But there's not much about it. Because again, Quasimodo doesn't end up with Esmeralda. And it just hurts even more when we find him crying after Esmeralda brings Phoebus and asks him to hide him until it is safe. And then we have the confrontation of Frollo and Quasimodo. The first one, him calling out Quasimodo for helping, him using the so-called lie of his mother, gypsy mother, trying to throw him down. Think of your mother. Think they're not capable of love. Even though, truly, Frollo is the one who isn't capable. And I have to say, to me, I think Frollo, to me, is one of the worst villains. Because he knew. He held that baby, and somehow he knew. And I know you guys might say, he didn't know Quasimodo was going to lead him to... He did. He knew. He knew the whole time. He even told him, he goes, someday I knew you were going to bring me here. You were the key to all of this, and I knew it. And how did he treat him after that? He locks him in iron chains, which the poor gargoyles, which are probably they're only part of his imagination, say a very powerful line. They're trying to tell Quasimodo that you can save Esmeralda. She's about to be burned at the stake. You can do this. And after Quasimodo yells at them to leave him alone, they say a very powerful few lines. All right, Quasimodo, we'll leave you alone. After all, we're only made of stone. But we always thought you were made of something stronger. And with that courage, with those words in his head, and after seeing Esmeralda's fire begin to burn, we see Quasimodo break the chains that hold him back, fly down with some rope, save Esmeralda, and to me, one of the most beautiful parts of this movie, if I could have it painted, I would, is Quasimodo holding up that limp body of beautiful Esmeralda and screaming sanctuary. And we hear the crowds below. And with that rage, we see the people of Notre Dame fighting. We see them take the cathedral back, kick out the guards, and it's just fun. It's not fun. It's a lot. Whew! Sorry, everybody. Again, I've recorded this like 3 times, and we're just getting rough with it, and I apologize. And I think the finale of Hunchback of Notre Dame, the final interactions between Frollo, especially leading up to it with Quasimodo holding on to Esmeralda and thinking that she's gone, trying to feed her water and just crying. Ooh, it's just a very powerful ending. And you guys might argue with me for this point, but I truly believe for a split second, Judge Frollo is comforting Quasimodo just for a moment, right before he tries to end Quasimodo's life. And with that, Quasimodo defends himself, shoves him against a wall, and he says, you always told me that the world was a dark, cruel place. But now I see the only thing that makes it dark and cruel are people like you. Esmeralda is still alive. Quasimodo and her go about the rafters of Notre Dame, and we truly see the true form of what Frollo had become. A scary visage, sunken eyes, pale face, and right before he dies, he says, and he shall thrust them into the eternal pits. And I was always terrified of that. But he plummets to the end. He plummets down. And again, probably one of the biggest reasons why I was scared of hell as a child is because of the character, Judge Claude Frollo. Not just because of how he talked about it, but also because of his ending. Made me very scared about that sort of ending. Now, on a happier note, and a very happy ending, we see our heroes leave the cathedral together, Phoebus and Esmeralda holding hands. Esmeralda guides Quasimodo out, and just the scene of the little girl coming up to Quasimodo and going to touch his face, and the crowd coming, and we hear Clopel scream 3 cheers for Quasimodo. And the final line being, what makes a monster and what makes a man? The Hunchback of Notre Dame from Disney is one of the stories that helped shape me to the man I am today. It has a lot of life lessons, it has a lot of wonderful characters, and a soundtrack that will shake you to your core. I cannot believe that this movie is 30 years old, and I am so happy that it is something that has grown up with me my whole life. So many wonderful lessons. And if anyone is still here listening to my rambling, thank you so much for listening. And it felt good to talk on camera again. We've missed you guys, and we hope to try to do more. And in honor of Tim, I will end with his words. Love each other, be kind. And always remember to ask yourself, what makes a monster and what makes a man? And with that, everybody, we will see you later, Pidges.